President Trump's H-1B visa crackdown is set to affect new applicants from February. The new $100,000 fee set off a wave of panic and confusion among foreign workers as well as American companies. And this visa is used by Silicon Valley firms to hire foreign engineers, scientists, and coders. And around 70% of recipients are from India, while another 10% are from China. For a closer look at the impact of this, Ross Feingold, who's head of research at Caerus Consulting, joins us live on CNA. It's good to see you, Ross. Let's get your initial reaction first to this new visa fee. What is it?
It will certainly have an impact on the number of applications, most notably at the lower ends of the salary scale. Obviously, a company is not going to spend a $100,000 fee to obtain a visa for an employee who might be making only $100,000 or less. So it might be worthwhile for companies to pay the fee for more senior and more highly compensated executives. But the large volume of applicants that we've seen in the past at various points along the salary scale, we're not going to see that anymore if this policy is in fact implemented.
And if these workers are fueling startups and innovation, what's the real danger to the U.S. economy if it continues capping or even eventually cutting H-1B visas?
Certainly, these workers have played a key role in the technology sector over recent decades, no matter which wave of the sector we're talking about, going back years to the early development of the internet, to other types of hardware or software, to e-commerce websites, social media, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a risk that less innovation will occur in the United States if this work is not being done in the United States, and more specifically, if the work is not being physically done in the United States. Of course, there's the solution of remote work and people using collaborative software that allows people in different locations to work together. But that's not the same thing as having people physically in the same location.
Well, you talked about how this will affect hiring decisions. Will this really translate to local hires in the United States, Ross?
That remains to be seen. The fact is, the United States doesn't produce enough of those so-called STEM talents, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that's one of the significant reasons why a large number of foreigners are allowed into the United States under the H-1B visa program to fill these jobs. And that's not going to change overnight, although there's some indications that more young people are going into these fields in the United States. But with the growth of AI or other hot areas in tech, such as autonomous vehicles, there's huge demand for this kind of talent in the United States. And if the United States doesn't produce it domestically, and there's more restrictions now on foreigners taking up these jobs, certainly that's a risk for technological excellence and R&D in the United States.
And also there's the question, Ross, about where these workers could go if the U.S. is no longer an option. We know Canada, Singapore, and Europe, they want to compete for the same talent. And China now has a K visa from the 1st of October, which seems to be their version of H-1B. So is Washington's new visa policy effectively handing America's innovation edge to all these rivals?
That remains to be seen. The easiest solution is to keep people in their home country because they don't need work authorization in their own country. But the trend, frankly, in a lot of places around the world has been to make it more difficult for foreigners to receive work auzation. And specifically, I'm referring to professional people, in services industries or even in the sciences. So that applies in Europe and in the UK, even in Singapore. In recent years, it's become more difficult, and that's understandable. Many countries share the same concern about pressure on resources, on housing prices, lack of opportunity for local people. So the trend has been away from liberalization of allowing foreigners to come into countries and work. But there are some countries that are going in the opposite direction. You mentioned China's K visa. There are places like Dubai and Saudi Arabia, which are aggressively moving into artificial intelligence. They've committed to spend a lot of money to build out their capabilities, and that's going to require a lot of foreign talent. So there might be some places that take an opposite view and become more welcoming, and that could mean that some of this R&D moves to those locations. But I would say it's still early days in that process to see how much actually would exit the United States.
And Ross, historically, we know the American Congress passed legislation to create the H-1B program back in 1990 as a labor shortage loomed then. Is this then considered no longer a concern?
Again, the concern about the lack of STEM talent, that still exists. That has not been resolved. And by itself, it's not a justification to end the H-1B program or change the fee structure. What I mean is the United States is definitely not producing enough STEM talent. So that doesn't justify ending the program. But at the same time, there's been a lot of concerns ever since this program was implemented, and more so over the last 10 to 15 years. A lot of concerns and criticism about abuse of the program, that some of the major technology companies were using the program to bring in people, younger people at the lower end of the salary range that were displacing American workers. And some of those criticisms are legitimate. The program was not meant to be one that facilitated younger people at the lower end of the salary scale entering the United States. The intention was always that it was for more senior, advanced people, more advanced in their career progression, to come into the United States. So it's not a surprise that the Trump administration has actually taken action.
All right, good to get your thoughts. Thank you so much, Ross Feingold, Head of Research at Caerus Consulting.